Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana. Hello and welcome to Ideas with Diana this October 5th, 2022. For today's show, it's about current events and it starts with, I'm going to use the book by Kierkegaard. In the original Danish was Enten. In English it's known as Either Or. Well, when I first read Kierkegaard, I thought of Kierkegaard in two ways when I read Either Or, which relates to current events. First, I thought of it as an older man talking to a younger man who was having issues and frustrations, of which the older man understood because he had the same issues and frustrations too. And the second way I thought of it is basically is if an older man imagined that he was talking to his younger self, what would he say to his younger self at the time that he was going through current frustrations? Well, in both scenarios, um, eventually the older man is very patient. He listens to the younger man describe his frustrations and he tries to help him resolve it with his maturity and age. And at one point, the older man, rather than saying what this generation says, "Well, I'm done. I'm out of here," he actually says, "Well, I'm sorry. I did my best. I'm trying to understand, and I guess I'm really not helping you." So, in the last chapter of Either Or, he suggests that the younger man talk with a friend of his who's offered to take over his role as the seen as the elder to help advise his friend. Well, now, how does this relate to current events? Well, when I think about this, when this current event in Ukraine occurred, starting this year, I really didn't understand the history of what was going on in the Ukraine up to from 2014 up to 2022. But as I began to observe this going on, because I do study history, and I also do believe in studying live history too. I started to watch some of the documentaries, some of them on RT. Again, I guess to some people you're not supposed to be watching RT, but my parents always believed. They always encourage us to read all sources, even all the books on the banned book list. So I've read all the books on the banned book list as well as the rest of my family and even my cousins so I mean, and also when critics pan a movie like a bad movie, that's sometimes the first movie I want to see when a critic really pans a movie. Like one time there's a movie called Camp Beverly Hills, and the critics panned it, and I told my parents as well. My parents smiled and says, "Oh, that's great, you're going to see it." So I went to see it, and what happened? Then when they showed it on TV, my parents watched it, and now they understood why the critics panned the movie. It wasn't because the movie was bad. It was because the movie had good values that basically that some of the people in the movie industry or didn't like, and that's why they panned it, because basically the movie it showed one person who was a scout leader played by Shelley Long, and they're on a scouting exercise, and what happened was basically there's one person that's injured, and the other person who was the other leader was basically win at all costs. It all counts as that I get the sale, I get the sale, I get to win, I get to win. And she said, "No, we're not leaving this person behind to win." Well, if we're going to lose. Well, what happened? She said, "No, it doesn't. We're a team. We're gonna take them with us, even if we have to drag them on a stretcher." So what happens? They drag them on a stretcher, and guess what? In the end of the movie, the one person that was with this team went, "Win, win, win, sail, sail, sail at any cost." Well, what happened? They fell behind because the team disintegrated. Well, Shelley Long's team made it across the finish line, and when she did, she also got a promotion at work because the one person that was on that team was her bad boss, and they discovered how bad of a boss she really was. And so my parents understood why some critics panned it, because it actually showed an old-fashioned belief that doing good is good for everybody, and you do win doing good. It's not that good guys finish last. Doing good helps. And this goes back to my thought about either or in today's society. In this thing, when this thing started in Ukraine, many people, many scientists wrote letters expressing, we got to talk this over. We got to talk. We got to resolve this. We got to figure another way other than going to war with this, and or sending us nasty letters or making nasty threats. And now basically, even when I watch intellectual talk shows that are not hampered by managed news or fake news, it's interesting how much information RT is giving out regarding what's not being talked in the managed news or fake news or even the Western news. It allows you to form a better perception. And even also with the thing about winning the YouTube thing yesterday, it's amazing. The internet was supposed to be full of free ideas. And one of the things that many people, I think, forgot about, that new people don't understand from people from my generation is, one of the first groups that started on internet was the alt group, AOT, alt dot topic. So, and one of the first topics that started on internet in the alt group was alt sex. And people think, well, oh, that's dirty, that's pornography, that's such and such, that's horrible stuff. Well, you have to remember 1973 when alt sex started, it was not about basically the perverted aspects that many people think about. It was about people simply asking questions about sex that they couldn't get anywhere else, because there was Playboy, but some places even banned Playboy or banned Penthouse or Hustle or something else like that, though. And also, so for some people on the internet, that was where they could actually talk. Well, what exactly does sex mean? Is sex always a physical act, or is it something more than that? And people could discuss that, and they could discuss that openly with a handle, because a lot of times they didn't use their real name because of different groups that tried to sort of stalk and try to go after people. Another thing that came out was basically many people were transgender or came out on the internet, like I did in the 90s first, because basically it was safer to come out in the 90s in groups like altsex.tg or alttrans or socialtrans, such and such. And the reason why they did that is because basically they couldn't talk with people and say, well, it's not something that that's bad or something else. It's something that basically that a person is born with. But now let's get back to this Ukraine thing. Well, what happens now? There have been many viewpoints about, well, we're gonna pay Russia substandard prices for the gas and oil and hope that they give in to us. Well, guess what happens if you go over to any store, even in the United States, and say, well, you're not voting for our party, so we're going to pay you substandard prices for groceries. Guess what the store owner is going to say? Look, I got bills to pay. I got maintenance bills to pay. If you're going to do stuff like that, I'm closing the store, and you'll have a food desert, and you could shop someplace else. And that's what the again, the cone heads of the elites are starting to discover. I wish I wouldn't have to keep using this analogy, but I did see positive progress. The president of France and his court all decided to wear turtlenecks or even shirts like this, like we wear in Wisconsin around this time of year, with an undershirt, because even though today the high is 64, it does get down to 46 at night. It's going to get cooler. And even like when I go to a movie this afternoon with a friend of mine, it's still going to be down to the 50s. But this thing about either or, we talked. Now it's coming down to the crunch time, because basically all these, again, elite ideas, this thing about breaking Russia, about breaking the 1990 agreement, about doing this and this. Many people are coming out we need to think of a better way how to solve this, because people can't afford the high energy bills. People can't afford the high gas bills. People can't be told, well, okay, no, Macron can get away with wearing one turtleneck because basically the Champs-Elysees is always going to be at probably 72 degrees Fahrenheit. But most French people with their energy bills, they may have to put on 3 of these when winter comes in the home. And Boris Johnson says, well, let's put a pot on. Well, you know, the thing about that is with the high energy bills, it's worse than calling the pot black. It's a pot that is black, calling the pot black, and then change its mind and calling it pink. Um, thinking that the pot's warm is not going to provide heat. It's going to cost, and even putting a pot on is not going to do it because there are many people, sometimes in Wisconsin, before the October 15th, a date where the heat has to be turned on, have to heat the apartment by turning on the ovens. A friend of mine had to do that a few nights ago because she had a cat, and basically to make sure that they didn't get cold. And for friends in Europe and other parts of the world, affected by this Ukraine crisis and this, you know, either or bad thinking of the elites when people who are mature try to help get discussions and things going. Um, they can't turn on the ovens to heat because basically their electric bills will go even higher, like that though. When I see, was it 200 euros per megawatt hour? Wow, like that's very high. That's about 6 times higher than my electric bill, and I think, oh God, I'd have a hard time paying for this. And so, like either or, um, it's time to get another elder in the room or another set of elders in the room, other than the cone heads and stuff like that, because the people that had these funny theories that are causing this economic crisis, maybe it's time for them to sit at the kiddie table and let the adults talk. And we do really need to talk because there has to be a way to resolve this. And the thing is, saying nasty things or threatening nasty things is very dangerous. Because even going back to war games, it showed basically how even when you had an advanced AI computer that was supposed to be understanding of human knowledge, how basically it automatically went to DEFCON 1 and was seconds away from launching a strike, which that movie won the Cannes Film Awards, also in the United States, and there's a second movie made of it. But the solution in the movie was when they finally called the original designer back, because again, the original designer didn't think like the cone heads back then, and he says, "What are you doing?" And he says, well, since the Russians have the bombers on, we're going to go send our bombers. Says, you're thinking like a machine. Stop thinking like a machine. You're a human being. They're a human being. Do you want to destroy yourselves? No. The Russians don't want to destroy themselves either. So think like a human being. Stand down. Stand down. Stand down. So what I'll end this show with this regarding the situation in Ukraine and using the either or. I'll be the person in the last chapter. Think like a human being, both sides. Stand down, stand down, stand down. Talk, 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 and declare a temporary ceasefire to make sure people do not starve or freeze to death, because Macron can afford to wear one turtleneck and be comfortable. But many people in Europe are going to have to put on thick sweaters and other stuff if this crisis gets any worse. And even in Ukraine, there's going to be many people who may be starving to the equivalent of the 1931 starvation that happened back then, as well as in Europe and including Africa. So act like human beings. We don't want to destroy ourselves. Stand down, stand down, stand down. Talk, talk, talk. Declare a ceasefire. No managed media, no fake media, no news. You talk in a separate room and you don't give blow-by-blow, play-by-play reports. This is not NFL football. This is not Fight for Soccer. So we are adults. Let's act like adults. Let's act like professionals. Well, let me know what you think. I prefer to be reached on Twitter at Diana1A. If you have other sources where social media where you like to reach me at, just send me a Twitter message and I'll subscribe to that so that to make it easier for those who watch us worldwide that they can reach me and we can sort of have a discussion. This has been Ideas with Diana for October 5th, 2022.